when I first came to MIT to discuss this project with Bill Arning, who's the curator at the List Center, and now the current director of the Contemporary Arts Museum in Houston, that he sort of invited me to look at the institution in its totality, which led me to looking at the website. And then, of course, there were things that immediately piqued my interest in, like the Energy Initiative, which is like something that's pretty important to me in the sense that like a lot of the things that I make are just recycled, discarded junk that I find on the road, and to repurpose it to bring it into the world of beauty or something, maybe. The Chariot here is a crashed race car frame that my cousin Skip Nichols built, raced, and then crashed. He lived and was healthy afterwards, but mangled the car. So I took the car and rebuilt a new body around the car to sort of make it look as though maybe it hadn't been crashed. And it's lit underneath in a sort of Roy G. Biv spectrum, and those lights are then lit by electricity generated by solar panels on top of the museum. So bringing it to MIT and working with the Energy Initiative was like a really kind of seamless, perfect, fit, in the sense that it was an opportunity to sort of explore perhaps like some poetic aspects of what they're doing. Being here at MIT and seeing the archives at the MIT Museum, and also knowing certain histories from this place in terms of like the development of the code for Apollo, which I read David Mendel's book called Digital Apollo about the sort of human digital interface and to the creation, the successful accomplishment of the Apollo mission to the moon. One of the most beautiful things was watching Bill pull the cardboard box down that had Luminary 1A, and it had a piece of paper just kind of written and taped to the front, kind of unofficially, but inside the box is the two sort of printed out copies of Luminary 1A and Colossus. And then as we started to look through it, finding Shakespeare and finding like, and now, in the sort of notes from the program, we're like saying, and now look where you found yourself, or like burn, baby, burn, or like it then became like human somehow. I mean, for me, but then I also thought about it a little bit, kind of maybe like the Gutenberg Bible, and thinking about literacy, right? The literacy now that there are people that can read the program and understand what it means, but maybe a relative amount of literate people that can understand the programming of Luminary 1A and Colossus would be similar to like perhaps like a common person's ability to read written language and the Gutenberg Bible. And so, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that, made a lot of things spin. I think that I live in a sort of purgatory of believing that constantly being reconfronted by themes of historical themes and in our inability to really deal with them, that they kind of live in perpetuity, right? And so that the technological developments, like the sort of lightness and darkness of them, like developing nuclear energy while at the same time creating the possibility to kill 140,000 people in a split second and burn their shadows into concrete. There's always like at the precipice of like the expansion of knowledge, that there's always like the sort of moral aspect that has to be weighed all the time by people that are really pushing that edge. And so the moral thing, I think, is always something that's really interesting, in how we navigate this brain inside of our heads that can push us to do awful things, but at the same time have the capacity to create beauty in the world. And so it's the in-between space, that sort of purgatory of like neither being here nor there, I think is always something that I'm drawn to. So that these really big themes like space travel, or the development of a nuclear weapon, or nuclear energy, or digital, like the expanse of a sort of digital world, which continuously makes us closer and closer together, and maybe further apart, depending on how you look at it, is like really fascinating because it has the possibility for constantly going totally dark if in the wrong hands. Coming to MIT, there's a huge amount of people that I've met here that are really inspiring. I think that in my experience here, it awoke in me the recognition that probably something that's going to happen in my life is to become like an art teacher, which I've always never really thought that I wanted to do, but not within the sort of parameters of the prescription of art teaching in the United States as it stands now, but rather to find a situation that could sort of mirror the importance between like thinking and making, which I think is like a really good balance here at this institution. My experience here taught me that that there's another fold beyond the studio or beyond making art, and that my body, mind as a vessel, thinking, making, is, I can, my thirst for community, my thirst for a creative community could be found in an institution like MIT.